morning, good afternoon, good evening to our listeners, whenever you're listening to this a new episode on the book Talkies. Today, I'm not keeping you in suspense. I'm going to declare which book are we going to talk about, because it's a very highly impactful and very, very serious topic, but very interesting book to read. The name of the book is called the Wahls Protocol. It's actually a longer name of the book, which I will let our guest speaker mention it and talk about it. But I have this question to you, Anirudh. We both are very pro-health focus. We monitor our health in some shape or form.
Yeah.
But have you had thought about, what does good health mean to you? Do you have any answer to it?
So I'm probably not the right person to be able to answer the technicalities, but from a feel-good factor, I think good health for me is if I'm able to not think about any activities where there's a lot of physical exertion that is required. In those sort of activities, if I'm able to do those comfortably, if I'm not actually stopping to catch my breath, if I'm comfortable doing some of these rigorous activities, which are like long distance running for that matter, long distance cycling, maybe a hike, I don't have to think, I don't have to prepare, I don't have to train for it. That is what I'll probably say is good health for me. All of those things coming together to be able to facilitate these exertional activities, that is good health for me. I think maybe that's how I can put it across.
Super cool.
What about you, Kaustubh?
Okay, let me put it this way. I think when someone asked me this question, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I will answer the same way that I told to that person, right? For me, let's say at the age of 70, I should be able to do the things that I'm doing right now in some shape or form, right? Let's say maintaining a healthy or maintaining a very active life or active day. That would be my aim at the age of 70. That's what I am preparing myself for. And not only that, I would not, so that becomes like the physical health. Then I would not want to depend on my family, my child, or my spouse, etc., to take care of me when I am old, right? When I reach a particular age. Maybe, and the last point is slightly controversial, but I would prefer peaceful passing away.
Yeah.
Peacefully, not going through some ailments and being on the bed and then you just deteriorate. I do not want that. Let me welcome our very special guest and a very dear friend of mine, Anastasiya Protsenko, with whom I spend most of my working day. And I'll let her do the talking throughout the episode. Anna, welcome to the Book Talkies.
Thank you very much. Hi KB, hi Anurad. Nice to be here with you today.
Thanks, Anna. A warm welcome on the Book Talkies podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
How reading and how this book has really impacted you in terms of changing your entire lifestyle. Maybe we want some perspective on that.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question, Anurad. So I would say that it has been a drastic change to my lifestyle, to my nutrition, what I eat, what I don't eat, to my exercise habits, to my sleeping habits, to my drinking alcohol habits, everything you could say, right? It has impacted me on a everything level. And I would say that I'm still learning how to properly implement the things that are in this book for myself, because of course these drastic changes take time and I'm not perfect yet. I'm still eating some things that I shouldn't eat, but I definitely notice if I do those changes within myself, right? Or those symptoms. But I would say that it's definitely a great sort of, let's say, guidance after reading it, having it always in the back of my mind, so that I can, slowly incorporate all these changes that Dr. Terry Wahls talks about. So it has impacted, reading it has really completely changed my outlook on everything really to do with health.
I would really want to understand, even I mean, so you are in Germany right now. And
Yes.
so I know you personally, so I know you have been
Yes.
here and there and here and there.
Yes.
With could we know more about you? Okay.
Yes. You can.
Yeah. So please, I mean,
Yeah.
very
Sure.
keen to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So. I mean, at the moment, as you know, KB, being my colleague, we work at a consulting firm, right?
Yeah.
And we love our job.
Yeah.
And but my background before consulting, so I was actually my vision when I was studying at university, you know, was to be a doctor. So health has always been, you know, a very I was always very passionate about medicine and health and nutrition and you know, anything to do with basically the human body, right? And so I studied, I majored in biochemistry and molecular biology when I was at university during my bachelor's, and then during my master's, I specialized in cancer research. So I did translational cancer research into actually prostate cancer, right? That men develop. And so, but then after you know, studying that, you know, there were some things that happened in my life personally which prevented me from going into a PhD. So then I, you know, basically, moved to Europe because my family is actually, you know, living in Europe. Most of my family living in Ukraine, and I wanted to be, you know, closer to them. So I came over here and I was transferred with the company. So my life kind of shifted and changed in quite a drastic way. So, you know, living in Australia and New Zealand, and then coming to Germany to live here. So I guess that's the holistic overview of me.
Yeah, and I actually, so for this book, I listened to her TED Talk, and pretty old TED Talk, I think maybe in 2011, 2012, and she showed a before and after picture, and it's available on YouTube. Anyone can see it. In the before picture, like 12 months, let's say November 20, I think she says November 20, 2009. She is sitting in a zero gravity wheelchair because that's the only position that she could sit in.
Yep.
And in 12 months without medicines, following her diet or her new lifestyle, she, within 12 months, she was able to go on a 18-mile bike ride with her family.
Yeah.
So that's phenomenal, right? Did you
I
get
can tell you a bit about that. So
please, I wanted to know more about her.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, Dr. Terry Wahls, she's a clinical medicine professor, right, at the University of Iowa in the US, and she actually teaches medicine to students, right? She also does a lot of clinical research. She's published over 60 different articles, posters, papers, etc. And then in addition to being a doctor, she was also diagnosed with a chronic, you know, progressive disease, which was actually in the year, if I'm correct, 2000. Right, in the year 2000, she was diagnosed with relapsing, remitting multiple sclerosis. So what is multiple sclerosis? It's, you know, it's a horrible, debilitating disease that really, where your immune system is not recognizing, you know, your brain, your optic nerves, your spinal cord itself, and it's actually attacking the nerve cells in your brain and the myelin sheath, so the fatty part that coats your brain, your spinal cord, your optic nerves, right? And from that, basically, you are losing, you know, the ability to walk, the ability to talk, or in some cases to talk, depending on what areas are getting, you know, affected, and becoming very fatigued, and like, as you said, you know, ending up in a wheelchair, you know, when it's really this progressive stage. So from 2000, she was diagnosed. Of course, then she started, you know, she had a doctor of her own, a physician who started putting her on different medications. She went through chemotherapy, but then by 2003, so 3 years later, she transitioned to a secondary stage of progressive multiple sclerosis, right? And she, of course, then she started going under more chemotherapy, she was put on more drugs to, slow the disease. But then nothing was really helping, it was sort of slowing a little bit, but she was getting worse, basically. And at that point, she ended up in this tilt recline wheelchair, right? Because her back muscles were so weak. Then from that point, she basically realized that conventional medicine is not making her feel better, right? These 3 years that she spent, she's just getting worse. So she started looking at a lot of different research to do with multiple sclerosis, a lot to do with these autoimmune diseases, chronic diseases, right? But a lot of the novel drugs that were being researched at the time were still in clinical trials, right? And were not regulatorily approved. They were just something that were maybes in the future, 10, 20 years down the track, would be available. And of course, so she thought, well, that's nothing that's applicable to me now. So she then started looking at like vitamins and supplements and natural compounds, right, that actually helped any kind of progressive brain disorder. And so she started actually taking the things that were actually in research, right, in scientific articles. So she started taking these things, and the decline started to become slower because she was starting to treat herself, from let's say from she was starting to add things into her body that were missing. But then this still wasn't enough. She was still progressively degenerating, right? Even though she was starting to feel a little bit better from these things, she was still declining. She was still slowly declining. And then in 2007, so 4 years later, she discovered this concept of, functional medicine. And it was this organization that was helping, physicians, clinicians to use latest research to take better care of patients with actual chronic diseases, right? So at this moment, after reading all these, what functional medicine is and how it works, she had this epiphany, right? And she thought, okay, what if I actually redesign my diet in a way that I'm getting those super important brain nutrients, not from supplements, but from actually the foods that I ate, yeah? So then that's where Wahls Protocol started in December 2007, right? Where she started to write this book. She started to experiment on herself. And she also found out about neuromuscular stimulation, right? Which is basically when you introduce electricity to your muscles to induce this release of endorphins, right? Which is very good for your body, which is what we all get from exercise. And then after 18 months of these, as you said, KB, after 18 months of these massive lifestyle and, dietary changes, she completely stunned her doctors, her family, her friends, even herself, because she got out of the wheelchair. She got out of the wheelchair. She did a complete bicycle tour, as you said, and she could walk without a cane and without having, some kind of support to keep her upright. So it's a pretty incredible journey.
So Dr. Terry Wahls undoubtedly, hands down, is an example in herself. But Anna, yes. As I said, we have been working together for quite some time. I know how your past year was. Okay. And we also know that Dr. Terry Wahls kind of reversed her autoimmune disease symptoms, right? And she's like in a perfect health now. I'm not so sure if every one of us would know what autoimmune disease is, and with that, if we would really want to know why did you? I know you said that your doctor recommended this to you, but why did your doctor recommend this to you? Right. So maybe a continued point on my question, please.
Yeah, sure. So the reason why I was recommended was that I have also been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition to do with my thyroid, right? So I have a autoimmune thyroid, basically, which means that my immune system is basically attacking my thyroid. It thinks that it's not self. It thinks that it's foreign. It doesn't belong in my body. So my immune system is attacking it. And so with that, I have to take thyroid medication, and on top of that also, there was a lot of nutritional deficiencies because of this. And because of stress, persistent chronic stress through last year, there was also a lot of other deficiencies and hormonal imbalances as well. My body was basically wreaking havoc, just completely against myself. So, but the key reason was I was recommended it was because of the thyroid condition, and also my mom actually has a really horrible autoimmune disease. She has systemic lupus, and my grandmother has rheumatoid arthritis, which is also an autoimmune condition. So there are genetic predispositions which also increase, not caused, but increase my chances of developing some kind of autoimmune condition. So that's why I was my doctor, she knew that my history and my family's history, and she said, you need to read this, you have to, because my doctor actually she has 2 autoimmune conditions. She didn't tell me what they were, but she said, I have 2, and she said, I have limited the amount of flare-ups, as an immune flare-ups is when you have a really horrible episode of symptoms. She said, I've limited my immune flare-ups to two per year, and some people experience this on a weekly or daily basis, from autoimmune conditions. And she follows this protocol, my doctor. So phenomenal. I was just lucky that I had a doctor that was also looking at things from a functional perspective, not just the conventional. Here's a drug, take it, but don't change anything else, right? So but I so that's the main reason that I started reading the book.
So, and I'm very, very interested in. I know it's a book. I think it's a 500-page book, all right. Yeah. And what are the practical tips that you would want to give from your experience? Because now I know, right now, I see that, my personal observation, you are more relaxed, you are more excited, more energetic. And that's a visible change within the span of like 2-3 months, right? And so there's something definite that is working well for you. Right? Yeah. And any practical tips that that you would want to share, any snippets from the book that this is how probably you can start with. This is how you can maybe step by step.
Yes, sure, I can do that. So first, before I go into these two things, I'm just gonna very quickly 2-3 minutes cover exactly what autoimmunity is, so that when I go into the principles and when I'm talking about what sort of things this kind of diet is eliminating from your body, then at least it makes sense, for the listeners. So so for autoimmunity, right, on a high level basis, autoimmunity basically just means that your body is attacking some part of your immune system is attacking some part of your body, which is creating a disease, a condition that is then labeled, right? So if it's an autoimmune thyroid, your immune system is attacking your thyroid. If it's if it's attacking your blood vessels, it's your immune system is creating vasculitis, right? If it's attacking your skin, it's causing eczema or dermatitis, right? If it's attacking your lungs, it's called asthma. So conventional medicine has developed these names depending on where your immune system is attacking your body, right? Now, the whole concept of autoimmunity, even to this day, and a lot of doctors still say this, is creating these idiopathic symptoms, which basically means that they don't know what is causing it. There is no clear. We know that the immune system is attacking your some part of you, but why exactly? What is causing it to become against you, right? This is still something that we don't know, right? And then just to when you look at this, the conventional view of autoimmunity, it's basically, slowing this progression with drug therapy, right? At the cost of feeling maybe a little bit better, right? But feeling also down the track a lot worse because right now, the symptoms that you are creating are from the drugs that you are consuming, right? Mm. And if that's the only thing that you are doing as consuming these drugs to help your symptoms, you are also increasing the toxic load within your own body. So on top of that, you might be creating even more diseases or conditions just by consuming some of these drugs, right? Then the functional view, right, is showing that the functional medical view, right, in comparison to this conventional, it's basically saying that, the 70 to 95% of the research is showing that there is diet, the toxin exposure, the activity level, that's accounting for, almost 70% of the risk of developing an autoimmune disease, yeah? Also mental health issues, also cancer, which is a chronic disease, also depression, mood disorders. Like there are so many things that are now being linked to this bubble, right? Mm-hmm. of different things. So, and the one thing, and she does not say in the book, I just want to be clear on this point. She doesn't say stop taking your medication and only do things to follow your diet. No. Okay. Continue to take your medication. Your medication is there. It's something that is still creating value as long as you are seeing your doctor, your dosages are getting changed. But in addition to your medication, also heal your body from the inside with the other things that I'm about to go into, right? Okay. And then, because for her, for example, she continued to take her medication, but she was also focusing on all of these good things to put back into your body. But then slowly she could reduce the dosage she was taking and suddenly not be on the medication, eliminate the medication. Okay. Because you are creating that in the environment within your body where your biochemical pathways are working in an optimal way, right? In some people, this is not in all cases, where then you can safely stop taking the medication. So now, what is the Wahls Protocol? And what is the diet? Like, what does she actually talk about in the book? So that's where I'm going to go into details now. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So the first level is basically the diet 101, where, as I've said, you have your 9 cups of fruits and your vegetables, which you can easily make into a smoothie, or you can steam the vegetables because that retains a lot of the soluble water vitamins that are, like if you boil your vegetables, a lot of the vitamins are just going into the water and then you're tipping the water out, So steaming is actually a much better way to retain all of that nutrition, right?
Does it taste good? Does it taste good?
It tastes great. Yeah. It depends, of course, which vegetables you steam, right? But like, because I've stopped boiling vegetables completely, I prefer to steam them now. Just because when you really consider the fact that, I'm buying this for so much money and then all the nutrition is just seeping into the water that I'm then tipping out, like this is kind of a bit, doesn't make sense. Yeah. So so this first level, like I said, the 9 cups of fruits, vegetables, gluten-free and dairy-free. Yeah. Then, gluten-free and dairy-free. Now, and this is, again, remember, as I said, this is for people with autoimmune conditions that want to reduce the inflammation in their bodies. Yeah. This is not applicable to everyone. Not everyone has to go this extreme, right? Mm-hmm. Then the third part is organic, grass-fed, and wild caught. So basically high quality protein, right? So organic, meaning that it is coming from like an organic sort of certified, animal farm, or the vegetables and the fruits are also organic, which means they are limiting the types of harmful toxins and pesticides that they're spraying it with, right? Like then high quality fat. That's the fourth part. High quality fat, meaning wild fish, coconut oil, avocados, right? Okay. So because you really want to start to reduce the amount of the energy that you are getting from carbohydrates, right? You want to get that energy because your brain uses fat for energy, right?
Yeah.
So it uses glucose, right? And it can use fat as well, right?
Yeah.
So getting, and your brain is also 70 to 80% fat, your actual brain. So it needs a lot of fat to be efficient. Yeah. So that's the first level, right? Which is not that hard. You basically just only eliminating gluten and dairy free. You're increasing the amount of vegetables and fruits, which you can just make in a smoothie. And you are, it's not very hard. That's what I follow right now. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm on level 1. Yeah. Okay. Level 2 is the paleo, because some people with autoimmune conditions who have really severe symptoms, the first level might not be enough. So they go to the second level, where all of the above applies that I've just said, plus you are then reducing your non-gluten grains, so like legumes, beans, and potatoes. So you're reducing that to only twice per week, right? Because anything carbohydrate-based still creates inflammation in your body. Yeah. Then you are adding, even if it's non-gluten, then you are adding seaweed, you are adding algae, and you're adding organ meats to your diet, because there are things, seaweed and algae is huge sources of iodine, right? And then the organ meats are huge sources of the coenzyme Q, which you cannot get from vegetables. You will only get this if you buy the actual supplements to replace, these nutritional things that are like within liver, like chicken liver, which sounds gross, but when you cook it, it's fine. It's quite nice. Yeah. Then also adding fermented foods, which is very good. So like kimchi, sauerkraut, it helps to your bacteria in your stomach, love it. They are digested, not in your stomach, in your intestines, love it. They're processing, it helps them digest some of the things that we consume, like the vegetables. Then you have soaked seeds and nuts, and more raw food as well. So like raw fish, of course, as long as it's safe, maybe raw meat like tartare, as long as it's safe. And then there's the third level, which is the Paleo Plus, which is basically eliminating all grains, all pulses, all potatoes, so all non-gluten grains. So basically not eating really any sources of starchy carbohydrates, right? You're eating at least 6 cups of the vegetables, and then you're reducing the starchy vegetables, right? And you're adding your coconut oil and full fat coconut cream. And you're only eating twice per day and fasting 12 to 16 hours every night. So that's like the third level, which is what she follows to basically, really reduce the symptoms that she is feeling from the disease. So it's very strict, but it's only really recommended for people who are progressing. Their disease is progressing, nothing is helping, and they really need some radical changes. So you are cutting out all sources of inflammation, and everything that your body could potentially be using to create a toxic environment, you are completely eliminating. So
thanks a lot, Anna. This was an absolutely fantastic episode that we have recorded just now. Really insightful. I think a couple of key things for the audience would be, one, and knowing the fact that irrespective of whether you have autoimmune diseases or not, conscious eating, being aware of what you're putting into your body is very, very important. And as they say, health is wealth, and that actually makes real sense basis this conversation that we have had with you. So really insightful. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
I have really enjoyed this conversation, and we really hope our audience has as well.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone.
To our listeners, thank you very much for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.